YouTube Vertical Stacker coming at you today with a beginner guide to stacking gold. This is not a really in-depth presentation. It's fairly basic, but I think whether you're just getting started stacking gold or you're an intermediate or even advanced stacker, there's probably something in here for you. And in fact, I would appreciate those who have a lot of experience stacking gold, or maybe you've just learned something important in your beginning stages. Please leave me a comment down here. I'd really appreciate it and we can talk about it. Also, please do me a favor and give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and if you like my content, subscribe to my channel, as I'll continue to do ongoing gold and silver precious metal related content. Before we really get into this, I think it's really important to establish that no matter where you are in your gold stacking journey, that you don't compare yourself to others. Go at your own pace. Don't worry about what Mr. Jones is doing next door or online or in this chat group or in this YouTube community. It's really important that you just follow your own pace so you don't get in trouble financially and you don't make bad decisions. So with that said, I think one of the important things for you to consider as you're beginning to stack gold is to set a budget. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I know there's been times where I've had money in my pocket and I walked into an LCS and I just started throwing my cash across the counter. I saw something that I wanted and I just picked it up, and I saw something else and I picked that up, and I came back the next day and I did it all over again, and pretty soon $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 is gone like that. That's great if you can do that time after time, day after day. Most of us cannot. So it's important that you set a budget and then stick to it. If you can put away $10 a week, $100 a week, whatever it is, set that aside, set your goals, figure out what type of gold you want to buy, and we'll talk about that more here in just a minute, and then stick to that budget. And maybe as you get a bonus or a pay raise or something like that, that budget can change, which will allow your situation to do more. A really important principle, I think, is paying yourself first. I have come to the conclusion, probably later in life than I wanted to, that I don't want to work for 40 years so I can live comfortably for 10. I choose to live now, and so I'm paying myself first rather than just socking everything away for a future date or future retirement or to set it aside for my kids. They're going to have to take care of themselves to a certain extent. Surely I'm going to try to leave something to them, but I want to live now. Is that selfish? No, it's just life, and it's something that I think each of us have to consider. Our level of mental health, our level of physical well-being, and so forth. It's important to take care of you. All right, so pay yourself first, an important principle. Consider maybe 2 to 5% of your net income every week or every month as a budget for your gold stack and how to grow that stack, whatever that is. Maybe it's $50 or $100. And if you can stick to that, you'll be able to regularly buy gold. And in some cases, maybe you're going to buy silver, but this is mostly about gold. And look, once you have, that first 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle set aside, if that's the one you choose to buy, that's about $200 and some in value, right? That is worth about $200 and some odd, and you can take that and set that aside. Now, the value of that is going to increase or decrease over time depending on what the spot price does, right? But I know if I have $200 cash in my pocket, that's not going to last very long. And then suddenly that $200 becomes $20 or $30 because I've had to break it to take someone out to lunch or whatever. And I'd much rather have this, because you know what? If I take that to a restaurant and hand it to them to pay for lunch, first of all, I wouldn't, because it's, who's going to hand over a $200 bill? They're not going to know what to do with it. It'd be kind of funny, a little social experiment. But anyway, yeah, I'd rather have that than cash any day of the week. Okay. All right. So once you've decided you want a budget for gold, now you have to consider what type of gold you want to stack. There's different types, right? You have numismatic type coins. For example, you have whoops, my phone just telling me it's going to die. You have a $2.50 gold Indian. This is technically a numismatic type coin. It has value in excess of the gold content because it's It has, it's pre-33 gold, has a limited mintage, things like that. Here's another one. These are, American pre-33 gold coins that have different values other than just their gold content. Bullion, like the gold buffalo, American gold eagle, and many of the other sovereign type mints around the world, those are just basically stacked for their bullion value. So if this is 1 troy ounce of gold, and it's going to be worth $1,800. It's never going to be worth too much more or too much less than whatever that spot price of gold is. Whereas numismatic coins, those can fluctuate wildly. For beginners, I don't really recommend the numismatic game. I have avoided it for a long time. I'm just starting to get into it a little bit more because I'm able to do that financially. But I know if I don't get a lot of help from my LCS or with my own research, I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to step in it. So some of those coins can run $2, $5, $10, even $50,000. And yeah, those aren't the kind of mistakes you want to be making when you're starting out stacking, or ever, quite frankly. So numismatic coins versus just bullion coins, that's a consideration. Another consideration is, do you want to stack just the coins from your own sovereign mints, like the US mint in the case of the buffalo, or do you want to go outside of that and maybe go to a mint such as a Perth mint or a Canadian mint? There are world coins from mints all over the world. Here's one from South Africa, right? 1/10 ounce Krugerrand. So there's world coins, and then you have your own sovereign mint coins. Like in my case, since I live in the United States, I stack heavily on the US mint coins, the buffaloes and the eagles. Is there an advantage one over the other? I don't know. I put out a video recently about, am I a fool for stacking so much, gold from other countries like Mexico? I have the Dos Pesos, Australia, Canada. Got a lot of feedback on that. And so I think the most important thing is gold is gold. You can hyperanalyze how is it, how liquid is it? Is it harder to get rid of than others? And certainly some of it might be, particularly higher value coins. But just bullion coins, small fractional coins, I think those are fairly easy to liquidate from your stack. And that's certainly a consideration that you need to think about when you are stacking gold. The other thing you have to think about is, do you want to do fractional gold versus full ounce? Of course, you got to save about $1,800 or $1,900 to pick up one of these in today's market, right? That's a lot of money to be saving whatever your budget is. Whereas if you just get a 1/10 ounce here, you're only paying about $205, $210 depending on where you get it. Online, of course, they have ridiculous prices upwards of $250. Be careful where you shop for these things. So, the other consideration is, don't go too fractional. These are not necessarily good deals. These gold gram bars, you can find these in all kinds of different assay cards. These run $65, $70 a gram. Again, you extrapolate that out to 31.1, not necessarily a good deal when you're looking at that small of a fraction. So I, generally speaking, would not recommend you go anything lower than 1/10 of an ounce of gold as you're building your stack. That's a great place to start for beginners. Okay, another thing you might want to do is, when you're setting these goals, if you're going to get a gold eagle, for example, try to fill a tube of gold eagles. Start there. If you can buy one of these a week or one of these a month, boom, this tube holds 20 of these. Try stacking 20 American Gold Eagle 1/10 ounce, or 20 Canadian Maple Leaf 1/10 ounce coins. There's all kinds of things you can do, but when you start seeing that progress building up in the tube, it's exciting, and it makes you just want to keep on going. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is establishing relationships. I can't tell you enough how important it is to establish relationships, particularly if you're in an area that has a local coin shop or an LCS. I really value their time and I value their knowledge. So when I go in to visit with them, I don't tend to waste a lot of time. I don't just sit there and shoot the breeze with them all the time. They're there to make a living. They're also there to impart wisdom, and they certainly do. You can see a lot of videos from around the community, and when these folks interview their coin shop owners, you can tell who knows their stuff and maybe who doesn't know their stuff all that well. And it's a plethora of knowledge that you can gain. So when you go in there, feel free to ask them questions, but make sure you support them as well. Buy a coin every once in a while from them, and they will appreciate that, of course, as well. And once you get that relationship really well established, you might be surprised on the type of deals they'll give you. I know my LCS has given me tremendous deals from time to time when the person either before or after me didn't get nearly as good of a deal. And that's just because of our relationship, and I do a lot of volume with them and so forth. The other way you can establish relationships is with the online community, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Facebook. There are groups where you can buy and sell gold in just about every platform. Figure out who the big players are, who are the buyers, who are the sellers. And once you identify them, you're going to be pretty safe for the most part. It's always important, critical, to make sure you know that the person from whom you're buying a piece of gold is reputable. You don't want to say, yep, I'll go buy that buffalo for $1,900. You send them $1,900 by PayPal goods and services, and suddenly they've blocked you and they don't talk to you anymore, and then you can't track them down, and you go and you file a complaint with PayPal, and I can just about tell you what's going to happen. Too bad, so sad, you're out your money. But when you go and you see that a seller has 200 successful transactions, and they have a legitimate business license, or they just have a legitimate appearance online with a history of taking care of people and great feedback, you can feel a lot more confident that when you spend your money with them, you're going to get your product, whatever it is. Okay, storage considerations. There's some folks, and we've seen them online, we've seen them on YouTube, that just love their raw gold. They love holding an American Gold Eagle or whatever gold they have. And if you haven't done it, do it. There's something about the heft of a gold coin in your hand, whether it's a 1/10 ounce or a full ounce. Your brain expects it to be lighter than it is. And it's just amazing when you fool your brain with that amount of heft. That 1 ounce of gold, that troy ounce of gold is just heavy. So you can take these, throw them in a sock drawer if that's the way you choose, ding them up, whatever. It's just bullion. I'm not that way. I'm a little more anal about the way I keep my stuff, so I encapsulate all of them, and then I use these tubes to store them in. That's just my preference. You can use, these little plastic flips if you want to. I don't care. I'm not a fan of them, especially not for silver. For gold, it doesn't matter nearly as much, but I just don't care for these at all. I'm a capsule guy all the way. So consider how you're going to store them. I use, again, the capsules and the tubes. I know there's some folks that have boxes, and then they'll put them in slabs if you want to spend the money on getting things slabbed. By the way, I wouldn't do slabs on modern bullion. I think it's silly. Numismatic stuff, certainly you want to get that slabbed perhaps to make sure it's authentic, either through PCGS or MGC or one of those well-known and reliable grading companies. So there you go. Those are my thoughts about some beginning methods, some beginning ways that you can stack gold. Something I wouldn't do, I'll throw this in here. If you're a beginner stacker, avoid Shipwreck Gold. This stuff is so expensive, and it's just silly because it's always cleaned. It comes out of the bottom of the ocean somewhere, and some salvage crew takes it, brings it into some salvage dealer somewhere, and they're cleaning it off, usually to make jewelry out of it or whatever. I'm not even going to tell you how much I paid for this. Frankly, I don't remember, but I know it was a ridiculous amount of money. I'll never get that back out of this unless I find somebody else who is just as sick. For a time when I just saw this and my eyes went, oh my gosh, 1797, I've got to have it, it's so old. Yeah, avoid that kind of stuff. All right, well, those are my thoughts. If you have any additional thoughts, go ahead and put them down below. I've had a couple of links of some other videos of mine that you might find interesting as well. I am grateful to this community. Look forward to talking with all of you whenever, however. Vertical Stacker, till next time.